hay por aquí? Cuéntame.
Welcome, listener, bienvenido, oyente, to our 9th episode, but the first one for the year 2022. Feliz Año Nuevo. I am Jaime Mallorquin, and I am happy to be here with
Yesenia Chavez, and just like last time, we are your hosts, your guides, your cuento curators for this Latino, Latina, Latine, Latinx storytelling podcast. ¿Qué me cuentas?
Okay, all right, let's get this episode going. Primeramente, muchas gracias. Thank you for joining us once again, or for the first time if you're new here. It's still early in the year, and this podcast really helps us stay positive and stay focused on the good things. The theme for this one is Primer Impacto, so stories about firsts. There's a lot of stories that come to mind for me, but I'm not sharing this time. How about you, Yesenia? What do you think about with this theme?
What comes to mind for me is my experience as a teacher. I am a kindergarten and first grade teacher, and for a lot of students, I am their first experience in school and their parents. So I get to be the one that sets the tone for the kids for what it means to be in school. And I love that responsibility, and I also take it seriously because I want kids to know that you can have fun and learn. Puedes hablar en español, inglés, and you can bring your whole self. And hopefully they remember Miss Chavez well.
In our first story, we're going to travel to Mexico as our cuentista remembers different firsts that she's experienced there. Here is Gina Diaz con su cuento ¿Y cuándo vuelves?
¿Y cuándo vuelves? Says my great-grandma Ama Lola in her shaky voice. She's wearing one of her modest floral dresses and hair pulled tightly into a bun. My tía Maria Luisa, her daughter, does her hair every morning amongst many other duties for her. Ama Lola's small body sits hunched on the edge of the plastic-covered sofa. I bend down to give her a hug, para despedirme. She slips about 400 pesos into my hand. My tía Maria Luisa, quick to scold, says, Ay, ama, ¿para qué le das eso, si ya se va? The usual irritation present in my tía's voice. But all that was when my Ama Lola was still alive. Now it's just a memory that has come in unauthorized, 2 years after her passing. ¿Y cuándo vuelves? She asked anyone returning to the States. It's painful to remember that moment, because I didn't return until after she passed. Some of my big-time firsts feature Mexico as the backdrop. My first kiss, my first period, my first motorcycle ride, and my first and last dine and dash. You know, come to think of it, who the hell was watching us kids while in Mexico? The beautiful combination that is cousins your own age and adults who are too busy gossiping or cooking inside. Why is it that each time I visit Mexico, I have the desire to rebel or seek something new? One morning, my tía Maria Luisa found my Ama Lola unresponsive. Those of us in California flew to Mexico right away. Now Mexico became the setting for the first novenario I had ever attended. That evening, those that fit inside gathered cramped in my great-grandma's tiny living room. Ama Lola was known by everyone in the rancho. There were even rows of chairs in the front patio and the backyard. Family, neighbors, even small children recited the prayers so swiftly. It was ingrained in them. Sitting on a brown metal folding chair at the very back of the room, I pretended to be a good little Catholic, mouthing what I thought were the right phrases at the right time. The next day was almost the same, except this time I couldn't help but look for my tía Maria Luisa amongst the crowded room. If I could catch a glimpse of her during prayer, when most were letting their guard down, showing their grief and devotion, maybe I could witness how she was feeling. It was usually rare to observe her emotions. Perhaps I wanted to see her face because I wanted to know she'd be okay. She must have been really well hidden because I couldn't spot her. Before this trip, I knew my tia to be stoic, quick-tempered, and her body always moving with such determination. Now she was entering her 80s, and I was seeing that years of neglecting her knee caught up to her. She walked with a limp, her body much smaller and fragile. The next day, I sat with the family for lunch. Caldo de pollo, fitting for the cold February afternoon. Towards the end, my tia Maria Luisa stood up. She headed slowly towards the couch and suddenly fainted, nearly falling to the floor. The next moments are a real blur. Luckily, my cousin Junior caught her in time and quickly sat her down on a chair. Another cousin lifted her arm to monitor her vital signs. Someone else called for an ambulance. They told us to remove any tight clothing. I grabbed some scissors and cut open her shirt to reveal a faja, a staple of an old-school Latina. With no time to think, I briskly cut through the fabric straight down. Her faja was clasped on so tight, I thought I might actually pierce her skin. Someone else began to give her tiny pieces of chocolate to raise her blood sugar. She gradually woke up. The moment became increasingly calm. Everyone was letting out a sigh of relief. And in the brief quiet, my tia, half awake, whispered, "Es que cierro los ojos y sigo viendo su carita." I had never heard her say something so personal. In my family, the vulnerable typically remains unsaid. Many years ago, when I could no longer keep in what I needed to say, I came out to my grandma. After hugging me, one of the first things she said was, "Tu tía María Luisa también es como tú." It was no surprise to me. There was no boyfriend or husband in the picture, and there was that tia that slept in the same room as her. The signs were all there. From what my grandma told me, it was barely tolerated. My great-grandma made it known she did not like my tia's partner at all. And much like Juan Gabriel, everyone maintained an attitude of lo que se ve no se pregunta, including my tia Maria Luisa. That was not to be talked about. My tia's partner passed away a very long time ago, and now my ama Lola was gone too. The fourth night of the novena had come and gone. As I was inching towards sleep and staring at the red brick ceiling above, I couldn't shake the image of my tia alone in the small red house. Soon we would all be returning home. Would she feel lonely? Out of her brothers and sisters, my tia Maria Luisa stayed in the house they all grew up in to take care of Ama Lola. I've known other older Latinx queers who also became responsible for their parents' care. In truth, I don't know whether that was her choice, an obligation for not being straight, or both. Did she sacrifice her own life for her mom? Yet, who am I to say she didn't think her life was enough? What was clear, though, was that besides the love she had for my Ama Lola, there was a great deal of resentment. If my Ama Lola said something was black, my tia jumped on the chance to say it was white. At first, watching the two of them was amusing, and eventually it would get uncomfortable. I felt some guilt that week. Despite also being queer, my tia's life developed way differently than mine. By sheer luck of being born decades later, I get to be out. That week, my mom and I went to Tlajomulco in search of a raspado. We sat at a nearby bench. With my raspado de leche in hand, I asked her if she also ever wondered what my aunt's life must have been like in such a homophobic environment. Admittedly, I can't remember most of what she answered, except for the stern warning she gave me. Nunca le vayas a preguntar de eso. Part of me knows it could be considered very disrespectful to ask that to someone like her. If I ever rebelled, I'm sure it would be a memorable experience, and I haven't had that with any other queer relative. Perhaps it's an American thing to ask those questions, and simultaneously a human need to connect. I do recognize that it's unknown when I'll run out of time. Still, I hope it can be a conversation for my next trip.
Gina's trips to Mexico provide so much nostalgia for me when I would go as well, and I hope that she gets to have those conversations with her elders in her community. I wish that I would have had more of those conversations myself with my grandma and my great aunts and all of them, because there's only a short amount of time that we're here, and if you have that opportunity and you can be brave, I would say go for it. Our next cuentista, Aaron Igareda, is very brave in sharing his vulnerabilities. His piece is titled "The First Time I Saw Her for Her."
My first car was a 1991 four-door black Honda Civic. That car was my freedom. It was 2010, and I thought I was dope as fuck. I was 20 years old, about 10% body fat, more or less. I was going to East Los Angeles College, just moved out of my mom's house and into our garage, and I was working at Marie Callender's. And that's when I saw her for the first time. I was the cashier. She was a hostess. I walked up to her at the podium one Christmas Eve and asked her if she smoked. She said, yeah. I told her we should blaze it. She said she was down. So we go back to my garage room after work, and I tried every line in my book to make out with her. But by the end of the night, I just felt like a fool. I texted her immediately after she left and asked if we could, start all over, that I was tired of the same old, that I didn't want to be a player no more, that I actually liked to write poetry and to beatbox. So a few months later, we were sitting in my car just after watching a movie, and I was about to start the car. That's when she looked into my eyes and she said, I'm pregnant. She started crying. And in between the seconds it took for me to wrap my arms around her and tell her it's okay, I tried really, really hard to understand the magnitude of that 8-letter word, pregnant, and how our lives were about to change forever. I tried to imagine what the hell it would mean to be a father. And then I tried to pretend like we were in love. The next 9 months was an elevator ride, full of I love yous and do yous and I miss yous and I can't trust yous and who the hell are you? I was scared. I didn't know how to be a father. I was still a damn kid myself. I didn't know how to sign up for insurance or Medi-Cal or EBT. I didn't know where we were going to live. I didn't know how I was going to support us. I didn't know her past. She didn't know mine. The day my daughter was born, there was a lot of blood, and I was in shock. I don't even think I cut the umbilical cord, to be honest. My partner, she was so exhausted. She was in labor for 36 hours or something. I remember bringing my car around the front of the hospital and then placing my daughter in the car seat and putting the car seat in the car, and then my girl would go in the back seat with her, and then we just drove off. And just like that, I was a father. We lived in the back room of my girlfriend's mom's house in East LA, and we had no idea what the hell we were doing or where we were going and how we were going to get there. The truth is, we barely even knew each other. But what we did know was that we didn't want to end up like each other's parents. We didn't want to live in that back room for the rest of our lives. We didn't want to give up on one another. She was an artist, and I was a writer. She would stay at home with our daughter, and I would go to school. And she would yell, and I would yell. And then our daughter would cry. Then she would cry. Then I would cry. She would tell me to leave. I would threaten to leave. Then after 16 months of this, our second child was born. And then my 1991 four-door black Honda Civic wasn't cutting it anymore. That 5-year plan at East Los Angeles College wasn't getting me anywhere. And that back room was slowly closing in on us. And we needed to get the hell out of there before it swallowed us up alive. I actually wrote a play about all of this. And in doing so, putting my problems on stage, I think I hurt my partner. I think I might have embarrassed her and portrayed her as a character that didn't have any goals or motivations other than just being my baby mama. Maybe I was just a bad playwright, or maybe I was just an asshole, or maybe there was some truth in it. So when I got accepted to the University of California, Riverside, and transferred my family to the desert, she hated me. She enrolled into the community college out there, and we basically became roommates. We had family housing, we had childcare, and we had escaped that back room. And I thought everything was cool, you know? But we couldn't play pretend anymore. I was doing my own thing, and she was doing her own thing. After 4 years of just growing apart, I got accepted to an MFA program, and she got accepted to UC Berkeley. I had to make a choice. Did I want to stay in the desert alone and get my MFA? Or did I want to be with my family? The truth was, I couldn't see myself happy without them. So in 2018, we moved up north to the Bay Area. We had family housing, we had childcare, and we had each other. And when the pandemic hit, we were forced to finally see one another as complete, complex human beings. And that was the first time I saw her for her. Love you, babe. Love you, mamas. Love you, papas.
You know, I really want to thank Aaron for sharing. It's not the easiest thing to do, and I kind of just sprung it on him. And since I met him throughout the years, I've loved seeing him get his degree, his now fiance, graduate from Berkeley. And it's great to know that now he's back working on his MFA in Riverside. So congratulations to the newly engaged couple. And I just really like stories that inspire me. I think those are my favorite. People who overcome obstacles and get things done. And the next story we have for you is also a story about overcoming obstacles. We're very happy to have this cuentista sharing her story. Here is Patricia Zamorano with Pues Ya Veremos.
I must have been 12 or 13 when I first heard someone tell my mom that I would not aspire to anything, would not become anything. That voice was so sharp and stinging, I was not sure if it was meant to hurt my mother or drop her down a notch. But she took it with a grain of salt and shined it on. She just came back with, pues ya veremos. I remember moving to Boyle Heights. I was 7 years old and it was frightening. But my mother was so happy porque ella era de rancho, pobre y orgullosa de Jalisco. We were moving from a one-bedroom apartment on Beaudry to go live in a 3-bedroom apartment with the kitchen and living room. It didn't matter that we were moving into the Aliso Village housing projects. To my mom, it was a come-up. En Mexico, mi mamá trabajó de todo. Ella ordeñaba vacas. She was a sheep herder, a cotton picker, camaronera, tortillera, a maid. She cleaned hotel rooms, too. My mom told me that one day she cleaned Vicente Fernandez's room in Brownsville, and she joked that he was my papi. She wished. All that to say, my mother was always a hard worker, a hustler, but our little family was still struggling. It was around the time I got to junior high, I realized that we were poor, that my mom, a single parent, was on welfare. She sewed my clothes from whatever scraps she could find in the textile dumpsters in the alleys. Kids would make fun of my clothes. Damn it. I had to figure out a way to get new clothes. I couldn't ask my mother. So I learned how to shoplift from the kids in my neighborhood. Soon I was boosting brand name clothes for myself, my sister, and my little brother. After a while, all the mothers in the projects would ask my friends and I to get their kids' sizes, and they would pay us. I started making money, and it felt so good. My poor mother, she would turn a blind eye. She had her hands full with me and my older brother. I was following him in his footsteps, and at the age of 14, I ended up in juvenile hall. I would be in and out of there for other crimes, other problems I got into, but I was still a good student in school whenever I attended. I graduated high school a year later, but I graduated. During that time, I was trying to figure out how I was going to make money, good money, without having to go to jail. So while attending ELAC at night, I took on many jobs. I worked at Sears, Jack in a Box, a gas station. I was a lifeguard. a school bus driver, but I'd quit them all. Whether it was because I was sleepy, tired of their bullshit, or just because I was done, I had enough. And every time I would march into my boss's office and tell them I quit, give me my paycheck. I think also because I just needed more money. And then bam, one day I saw a billboard that said construction, women need it. What? I pulled over, wrote down the info, phone number, and I called it. The next day I showed up, signed an application to apply, and they hired me. I ain't gonna lie. That shit was hard. Ay, Dios. For the first time, I was not sure I could do something. Those other jobs never really challenged me. Here, they were physically training me, and because I'm stubborn, I welcomed the challenge. These men had me hammering nails, carrying 4x8 sheets of plywood, carrying bricks back and forth, reading a measuring tape, walking on 2x4s, running up and down stairs. Before I knew it, I was so fit and so hungry. That's how I became an apprentice carpenter. And I did that for 5 years. Then I realized I didn't want to do that work anymore. It was physically taxing. But the money was so good, I wanted to do something else that paid me exactly what I was getting paid or more. And I discovered a new trade that paid more, heavy equipment operators. So I went and I applied and I began a new apprenticeship. When my dispatch sent me out on my first job to go run a D8 dozer, and I showed up to the job site, and all there were 12 to 30 white men on the job. My heart beat so hard I could feel my blood rush all the way up and around my ears. My cheeks were flushed and everything inside of me went cold. I could feel all their eyes on me, judging me. How dare I show up and try to operate their machines? At that moment, the sharp, stinging voice from my childhood that had said I'd never become anything came to mind. Quitting had been so easy for me before, but not this time. This wasn't going to fit into my mother's plan. You see, through all of this, I was running amok, spending all my money, being wild, and my family was still in East LA, but now in the Maravilla projects. One day, my mom, who had by now become blind, sat me and my sister down to share her vision for us. Her big plan was, yo quiero que ustedes traten de comprar una casa. I was like, ¿cómo? Yo no tengo dinero. But Mom said, pero yo sí tengo para poner el down. She revealed that she'd secretly been saving and now had all this money for the down payment, and all me and my sister had to do was pay the mortgage every month. I was scared and excited all at the same time. Could we do this? Pay a mortgage? It was such a big responsibility, but I was making more money. And I did love running heavy equipment, even if I was just a beginner. My adrenaline had begun to vibrate, that beautiful feeling I get when something I don't know how to do gets me going. All I'd gone through growing up had prepared me for this. I was just going to have to run game. I was going to fake it till I could make it. So as I was saying, I'm at this job site, and that foreman tells me, all right, go get on that dozer and follow me. And he spit a big old wad of tobacco close to my boots, and I was like, oh shit, it's on. Father God, please give me enough time to figure out the levers, the throttle, and the brakes. And just like that, as if I knew how to run these machines all my life, it would turn on. I would push the controls to go forward, and quickly I would figure out the rest. Man, I still remember feeling afraid and so very proud. The very first time my mother was stepping into our first home that we bought with her down. My mom always seemed to guide us through this life with a positive outlook, pushing us to go to school to do better than she did. My sister went on to become administrative coordinator at LAUSD. My younger brother became a doctor, opening his own practice. And as for me, my life has been pretty unorthodox, not really playing by any rules, but my own. I was able to find my career as a journeyman heavy equipment operator, which also has allowed me to be a homeowner, to travel the world, and to work on my craft as a playwright. This journey hasn't been easy, and there are regrets, but I still strive to do right, and I am still evolving. So as far as what the future holds, as my mom would say, pues ya veremos.
I love that title. Pues ya veremos. What a Mexican thing to say. We certainly did see what Patricia and her mom and her family was able to accomplish. And I love the image of Patricia operating this heavy machinery. I think that's super inspirational.
I love so much about Patricia's story, what she shared here, but also just what I've heard from her in these last years of becoming closer with her, becoming an actual friend with her. And it's kind of a surprise to me, this friendship we've built, because I feel like we're so very different, but I think what bonds us is just our love for being genuine and just for wanting to make true connections with people. And she teaches me so much about being strong and about being unapologetically yourself.
Here's another dear friend from Casa, Eddie Padilla, sharing his story titled The First Time.
I was born in Tijuana, Baja California, Mexico. My mother told me that my father's name was Amador Padilla. That was a lie. She gave me his last name because he was there when I was born. Another time, my mom said that my real father's name was Alfonso Valdivia. Another lie. Well, to be fair, maybe just a partial untruth. She's never really been sure, and it could have been any of them. My mother's a housekeeper. She cleans houses. I'm 9 years old, and mirrors amaze me. I spend hours in the bathroom, kneeling on the sink, staring at my face, making it change as much as possible. My eyes are too big. Why do I have girl's eyes? I wish I looked different. People at school make fun of my nose. I'm at work with my mom. Everything is so clean and beige. Shelves of colored bottles line the walls. We have to work fast to make it to the doctor's in time. I dust the bottles with an old white t-shirt. I lean too hard on the shelf and the bottles come down. Eduardo, ¿qué haces? You're useless! My mom's not singing anymore. Alcohol in the air. Don't help me. Don't touch anything. Look at the carpet. She stays mad at me the rest of the day. Upstairs, she's cleaning the bathroom. I'm sitting on the bed. The closet doors are big mirrors. I'm making funny faces. There is dust on the mirrors when the sun shines in. I grab a newspaper and Windex and start to clean. I can't reach the top. My mom is standing behind me in the mirror with wet towels in her hands. What are you doing? I'm not supposed to clean those. They were dirty. Quítate! Get out of the way! You just make things worse. Why? I don't know what she's saying anymore. I was just trying to help. Odio el día en que te parí. I hate the day I gave birth to you. Our bus ride home is very quiet. I can't look at her. I can see my big nose reflected on the bus window. I'm 18 now. Today I worked at SeaWorld until 4 p.m. I changed my uniform and went to my other job at Marie Callender's. I finished there at 10 p.m., so I have time to wander through downtown a little. I'm standing outside Croce's, the jazz club, leaning against the big wooden door frame. Tobacco Road is burning up the place with a rich tenor sax, a big acoustic bass, a jamming upright piano, and a dark, passionate singer with dancing beaded braids on bare cappuccino shoulders. From across the room, through hazy smoke, a pair of brown eyes caress my body and face. Heat rises from my toes to my head. The dark singer bounces a rich caramel tune. The eyes pass me swiftly as they exit through the front door. The singer keeps wailing. The bass plucks at my chest, and the piano talks excitedly with the sax. I wish I knew the words. "Would you like to sit down?" Smiling brown eyes address me. "Oh, no, I'm not supposed to be in here. Sit down, let me buy you a drink. I don't really drink." "Okay, I'll have a Diet Coke." It's really loud in here. The music fades as we walk towards Broadway. The summer heat inebriates our walk as we search for a cab. "I've never—" "Hey, you're the one who picked me up," he quickly responds with a grin. I'm laughing pretty loud. The cab ride is quiet as we stare at each other. I'm trembling as we try to hold hands. In the hotel, I'm still trembling as we undress. I can't take off my shirt. "Are you self-conscious?" I'm not sure what that means. Under the blankets, we embrace a long time. Strong arms are warm. "I can't believe I found you," as my shuddering subsides. "We can't be lovers, you know. I'm married." "Oh, I have a kid your age back home in Virginia." We stand in front of the mirrored closet doors in the hallway. We take off my shirt. I'm completely naked. "Look at you. You're beautiful." I can hardly see my scars. The night goes quickly. That's the first time anyone ever made me feel so special.
Ooh, yeah. This is another one of those stories that right away I had an emotional reaction to. Eddie is such a sweet, funny, welcoming presence at Casa 0101 Theater. And I was just so pleasantly surprised to see how vulnerable he was and how beautiful he was able to word this story. It's just so nice to have this platform for me to get to know a little more about him.
I love Eddie so much. I met him first at Little Casa before it became Big Casa, because I wanted to find community in the theater, and performing was always something that I love to do. And so I didn't know anything or anyone, and I just showed up to this class at Little Casa. I think it was called The Fundamentals of Acting, and you, Jaime, you took headshots for me because that was part of our homework, and I did this little resume, an acting resume that didn't have much on it, but I really just appreciate Eddie's vulnerability in this piece and sharing the first time that you feel seen. I think we can all remember those moments where you appreciate yourself and your body and who you are, and that you are beautiful. Eddie's such a force, and much like all of our cuentistas this time around, they all have this special force or power surrounding who they are and how they are able to capture these first moments in their stories. And I hope that we all have many beautiful, wonderful firsts that we can remember, so that it's not all about the Omicron and the pandemic.
You know, this episode we had people who were experienced with storytelling, and we had people who were very new to it. And I want to thank all four of them for their hard work and their patience. For our next episode for February, our theme will be Amores Perros. Stories about broken hearts, love, dating, el amor propio, y platónico también. Even your love for your dog if you want, or for the movie. Just messy breakups, divorces, all of that.
Okay, maybe I'll submit for next month. I might have a couple of stories to share on that theme, but maybe not. I don't know. Let me think about it.
Our theme song is by the talented Alfredo Avila.
Additional music was by the band Darker Places and my primo Omar Ramirez.
We're very excited about finishing up this first season. I think we have 2 or 3 more episodes to go, and I think we have some great storytellers coming up, so keep listening.
And also, don't forget to subscribe to Que Me Cuentas if you haven't already. And for your New Year's resolution / vision board, remember to add support indie podcast Que Me Cuentas by rating, liking, and reviewing. If you're not sure how to do it, just ask your tech-savvy comadre que te ayude.
This has been Que Me Cuentas. Hasta la próxima.
We love you. Thanks for listening. Bye.